Hello students, today we are going to start from class 9 English literature, the second lesson of the book Beehive, the sound of music. There are two parts of sound of music, part 1 and part 2, and we are going to start part 1, which is Evelyn Glennie listens to sound without hearing it. So basically we are going to start reading about a girl, an exceptional talented girl called Evelyn Glennie. It is written by Deborah Coleman. Before getting to know who Evelyn Glennie was, let us get to know who Deborah Coleman was. So this was the woman, Deborah Coleman. So Deborah Mason Coleman is a freelance writer and broadcaster. She grew up in Toronto, graduated from University of Western Ontario and moved to Ottawa to work for the Unitarian Service Committee. So this was her alma mater. She spent 2 years in UNHCR, United Nations Relief and Works Agency, in Beirut before moving back to Ottawa and a job with CIDA. As she traveled the world with a diplomat husband, she worked as a reporter for CBC Radio in Washington, D.C. and on a posting to Cairo. She worked on several TV documentaries for CBC's Man's Alive. Also in Egypt, she wrote the first official guidebook to Cairo since Baedeker's Guide in 1940s. Subsequent postings in London and Brussels gave her the chance to write articles for the British and international editions of Reader's Digest. So this is how her career as a writer started. Research for this took her to Kenya to report on AMREF's flying doctors, to Bangalore in India with ORBI's team of eye doctors working out of a DC tent, to northern Uganda to interview Dr. Lucille Tesley, to Tanzania to meet chimpanzee guru Jane Goodall in her lakeside home, and to Stockholm to interview Queen Sylvia of Sweden. So this was all about the author Deborah Coleman, who wrote about Evelyn Glennie, basically a percussionist. Percussionist means, now percussionist means those musicians who play various type of other instruments which are not the mainstream instruments, like guitar, keyboard. They don't play the guitar, they don't play the synthesizer, they don't play the normal instrument, but various other types of instruments were there, such as a xylophone. Okay, various drums are there, small and large. Okay, and and various types of other instruments which create sound. So they add a specific charm to the music, and they are a part of the orchestration, means a band of musicians. Evelyn Glennie was a part of the orchestration. So how she grew up and what was her disability, this is what we are going to know in this lesson. So before moving back to Evelyn Glennie, so let's read who Evelyn Glennie was, because in this text we are going to read something else about her. So Dame Evelyn Glennie is the first person in the history to successfully create and sustain a full-time career as a solo percussionist, performing worldwide with the great orchestras, conductors and artists. Evelyn paved the way for orchestras globally to feature percussionist concerti when she played the first percussion concerto in the history of the proms at the Royal Albert Hall in 1992. So she was the first person in the history to successfully create and sustain a full-time career as a solo percussionist. She was a solo percussionist and she was successful in creating that. And he performed worldwide with the various great orchestras, the conductors and various artists. So Evelyn paved the way for orchestras globally to feature percussion concerts when she played the first percussion concerto in the history of the proms at the Royal Albert Hall in 1992. So in 1992 she first played the percussion there. Evelyn has commissioned over 200 new pieces of solo percussion from many of the world's most eminent composers to vastly expand the percussion repertoire. She regularly provides masterclass and consultations to inspire the next generation of musicians. So she also gives tuitions to others also. The film touched the sound, and her enlightening TED speech remain the key testimonies to her innovative approach to sound creation. Leading 1,000 drummers, Evelyn had the honor of a prominent role in the opening ceremony of the London 2012 Olympics. So in the London 2012 Olympics, she played there. Evelyn was awarded the OBE, Order of the British Empire, in 1993 and now has over 100 international awards, including the Polar Music Prize and the Companion of Honor. She was recently appointed as the first female president of Help Musicians, only the third person to hold this title since Edward Elgar and Sir Peter Maxwell Davies. So she was recently appointed as this president of the Help Musicians. Evelyn is currently creating the Evelyn Glennie collection with a vision to open a center that embodies a mission to teach the world to listen. She aims to improve communication and social cohesion by encouraging everyone to discover new ways of listening, as proven in her book, Listen World. We want to inspire, to create, to engage and to empower. So this was all about her brilliant career. We will get to know more about in the text. And this is the girl who is playing the xylophone. Okay, actually let me tell you before a few things. Each and every music, why music is better? Music is only better because it soothes our ear, right? Each and every sound we hear through our ears, but music adds a specific charm to it because we can hear music. We listen to music at our difficult times, at our best times, at our happiest mood, and when we are in depression, or when we want a motivation also, or whenever we are in leisure. Ears help a great task in listening to the music. So each and every musician in the world understands music through its ears, through their ears. But very few musicians in the world are there whose passion for music matters. There are great musicians. The greatest musicians are those only who took music to their own heart, who could feel music throughout the whole parts of their body, who could get emotional at the best music, who could understand whether the music is a bad or a good one. Now, what happens if somebody cannot hear? If somebody is a deaf? Evelyn Glennie was such personality who was not able to hear, but she could feel music throughout her body, and this made her a greatest student and a champion musician all over the world. So we are going to start a text which talks about Evelyn Glennie and his best creations. So let's start. So it starts with, God may have taken her hearing, but he has given her back something extraordinary. So God has taken her hearing, but he has given her something extraordinary. What we hear, she feels far more deeply than any one of us. That is why she expresses music so beautifully. So read the following account of a person who fought against a physical disability and made her life a success story. So we are going to read about a person who fought against a disability and make her life a success story for all. Rush hour crowds jostled for position on the underground train platform. A slight girl, looking younger than her 17 years, was nervous, yet excited. So rush hours crowds jostle for position on the underground train platform. It refers to the tube rail of the London. So a slight girl, a small and thin girl, jostle means push thoroughly. So it was a crowded always. So a small and thin girl looking younger than a 17 years, so was younger than a 17 years, was nervous because she was going somewhere for the first time and excited because she was going for the first time, and she felt the vibrations of the approaching train, so she could feel the vibrations of the train. It was her first day at the prestigious Royal Academy of Music in London, and daunting enough for any teenager fresh from a Scottish farm. So for the first time he was going at a very prestigious institution called Royal Academy of Music in London, and it was daunting enough for any teenager fresh girl from Scotland, from the farms of Scotland, means from the villages of Scotland. But this aspiring musician faced a bigger challenge than the most. She was profoundly deaf, but this musician was feeling a more challenge because she was deaf, she cannot hear. So this was all about Evelyn Glennie when she was about to step into the Royal Academy of Music in London. On the first day, a great musician is about to create. So next stanza tells us about Evelyn Glennie's personal life. Evelyn Glennie's loss of hearing had been gradual. Her mother remembers noticing something was wrong when the 8-year-old Evelyn was waiting to play the piano. They called her name and she didn't move. I suddenly realized she even had heard, says Isabel Glennie. For quite a while Evelyn managed to conceal her growing deafness from her friends and teachers. So at the age 8 years of old, when her mother noticed that she called her name and she didn't move, and she was told to play the piano, and when they called her name and she couldn't move, and then she realized that she cannot hear probably, and gradually for a quite lot of time she was able to conceal her growing deafness from the friends and teachers. So by the time she was 11 years old, so her marks are deteriorated, and her headmistress asked her parents to take her to a So her marks deteriorated when she was 11 years. So her headmistress of the school told her to take her to a specialist, means ear specialist. So it was then discovered that her hearing was severely impaired as a result of gradual nerve damage. So she could not hear because there was a nerve damage. They were advised that she should be fitted with hearing aids and sent to a school for the deaf. So they suggested that she should be taken to a school for the deaf. So Evelyn was taken to a school for the deaf. So was she about to give up everything? But Evelyn was not going to give up. She was life and pursue her interest in music, but she didn't give up. She decided not to give up. Rather, she decided to lead to a normal life and pursue her interest in music. So we see that this girl is determined to do something with a disability. She took a challenge that if it is my disability, then I will utilize my deafness as well. What does deafness brings? Deafness brings a loss of hearing, and she took the challenge that I will be involved in a profession which involves only hearing only. If I cannot hear, I will allow the whole world the beauty of the music. I will make listen the whole world the beauty of music, and this is what she is going to be. So one day she noticed a girl playing a xylophone and decided that she wanted to play it too. So one day she realized that a girl was playing a xylophone. So this was a xylophone. So she saw that a girl was playing the xylophone, and this was a xylophone. What is a xylophone? A musical instrument with a root of wooden bars of different lengths, and it creates a beautiful music. And decided that she wanted to play it too. So she decided that she wants to play it too. And most of the teachers discouraged her, but a percussionist, so most of the teachers were not aware what she can do. So they discouraged her, but the percussionist, Ron Forbes, spotted her potential. He began by tuning two large drums to different notes. Don't listen through your ears, he would say, try to sense it in some other ways. Says Evelyn, suddenly I realized I could feel the higher drum from the waist up and the lower one from the waist down. Forbes repeated the exercise, and soon Evelyn discovered that she could sense certain notes in different parts of her body. I had learned to open my mind and body to sounds. So she learned, so I had learned to open my mind and body to sounds and vibrations. She decided to open her body to sounds and vibrations. The rest was sheer determination and hard work. So she learned by her teachers, Ron Forbes, who taught her that only don't listen through the ears while others are doing, listen through other parts of the bodies actually. Okay, so try to sense this, and she decided that from the waist up I could feel the higher drum, and from the waist down I could feel the lower drum. And this is how Ron Forbes repeated the exercise, and soon Evelyn started to discover that certain parts of the body are responding to certain notes. The notes were clear in her body parts, and then she learned to open his mind and body to sounds and vibrations. The rest was just the determination and hard work. Okay, so that was she. And how famous was she? Let's see. So after that, after she realized to learn notes through the body parts, she never looked back from that point onwards. She toured the United Kingdom with a youth orchestra, and by the time she was 16, she had decided to make music her life. She auditioned for the Royal Academy of Music and scored one of the highest marks in the history of the Academy. She gradually moved from the orchestral work to solo performances. At the end of 3 years course, she had captured most of the top awards. So from that day onwards, she didn't look backwards, and she toured the entire United Kingdom with a youth orchestra. And when she was 16 years old, she had decided to make the music his life. And she auditioned for the Royal Academy of Music, and she scored one of the highest marks there, which was in the history of the Academy. Highest mark in the history of Academy is not a matter of joke. So gradually she moved from orchestral work to solo performances, and at the end of the 3-year course, she had captured one of the most awards there. So and all for this, and for all this, Evelyn won't accept any hint of heroic achievement. She won't say that it was because all of my heroic achievement. So she says, if you work hard and know where you are going, you will get there. And she got right on to the top, the world's most sought after multi-percussionist with a mastery of some 1,000 instruments and hectic international schedule. So she determined about her success, and she always tells that if you work hard and you know where you are going, then definitely you will get there. And she got on the top of the world's most sought after multi-percussionist. She could play about some 1,000 instruments, and it was not a matter of joke, just because she felt the notes of the music within each and every parts of the body. So she could play anything, more than 1,000 instruments, and a hectic international schedule. She travels all over the country. Such a famous girl she was. So it is intriguing to watch Evelyn function so effortlessly without hearing. In our 2-hour discussions, she never missed a word. So it is very fascinating and curious to watch how Evelyn functions so effortlessly without hearing. So how Evelyn works so effortlessly without hearing even. So in our 2 discussions, so this author has made a 2-hour discussion with her and she never missed a word. So she says, since you observe that men with bushy beards give me trouble. She laughed because men with bushy beard means their mouths cannot be seen properly. So the lip sync, she captures the lip sync and she understands that. She laughed. It is not just watching the lips. So she doesn't only watching the lips. It's the whole face, especially the eyes. She speaks flawlessly with a Scottish lip. So she could speak very flawlessly because of her, despite the hearing capabilities, because most of the time it is seen that person with hearing disability has a disability in the speech too, but she doesn't have that. So she could speak flawlessly, means without a fault or mistake, with a Scottish way of speaking, because she was from Scotland. And she says, my speech is clear because I could hear till I was 11. As why her speech is clear? Because she could hear till she was 11, so her speech developed. She says, but that doesn't explain how she managed to learn French and master basic Japanese. But how did she learn to master French and Japanese? She knows these 2 languages. So such a talented girl she was. Japanese is very hard to learn. So as for music, apart from French also tough, but Japanese is much more tougher. Okay. So as for music, she explains, it pours in through every part of my body. So this is what she loves. The music plays through each and every parts of his senses. It tingles in my skin, my cheekbones, and even in my hair. When she plays the xylophone, she can sense the sound passing up, stick into her fingertips. By leaning against the drum, she could feel the resonances flowing into her body. On a wooden platform, she removes her shoes so that vibration passes through her bare feet and up her legs. So she understands or she listens music through all the parts of her body. She performs barefooted so that she could feel the vibrations on to her legs, and this is how she involves each and every body parts to participate in the music. So this is how she is performing in front of her orchestra, and she takes a lead here. Okay, she performs through all the parts of her body. It is quite a recent peak actually. So this is how she delights her audience. Not surprisingly, Evelyn delights her audiences in 9. So this is how she delights her audiences. She may understand music through all the parts of her body. So in 1991, she was presented with the Royal Philanthropic Society's prestigious Soloist of the Year award. In 1991, she was presented this famous award called Royal Philharmonic Society's prestigious Soloist of the Year award. She was a solo performer as a percussionist, and it was too difficult to sustain there. But because she understands music through her heart, she could do this. Says master percussionist James Blade, God may have taken her hearing but has given her back something extraordinary. What we hear she feels far more deeply than any one of us. That is why she expresses music so beautifully. So this girl listens to music better than any of us, and this is why she expresses music so beautifully. This is what James Blade says about her. God may have taken her hearing but has given with something extraordinary the power to hear, the power to understand music. Everyone hears music, she listens to it, she feels to it, and when you feel music, you are a master of the music. The basic thing is that you must love the work that you are doing, and this is what she does. She loves her work. Evelyn confesses that this is something for workaholic. She is workaholic. Okay. Workaholic means a person who finds it difficult to stop working. So she loves her work. That's why she doesn't stop working at all. So Evelyn confesses that she is something for a workaholic. I have just got to work, often harder than classical musicians. But the rewards are enormous. So she had to work harder than any other musician. But the rewards are enormous, so many rewards she gets. So apart from the regular concerts, Evelyn also gives free concerts in prisons and hospitals. So she also gives free concerts in various prisons and various hospitals. She also gives high priority to classes for young musicians. For young musicians, she gives high priority classes. Okay, means great importance, so that other children can also learn music better, understand music, feel the music the way she does. She is a percussionist, she is not a singer, but she feels music better than any other musician, and this is why she is famous. Anne Ricklin of the Bethlehem Fund for the Deaf Children says she is a shining inspiration for deaf children. They see that there is nowhere they cannot go. So the deaf children thought that they could not learn music at all because they cannot listen to it. So she is an inspiration for the deaf children now. And the deaf children now see that there is nowhere they cannot go. They can go everywhere. The deaf can go everywhere. They can do everything. There is no disability in your body. The disability always in your mind. If your mind says that you can't do it, then you can't do it. If your mind says yes, you are going to do it, you are definitely going to do it. And this is what Evelyn Glennie makes possible, makes us understand. Evelyn Glennie has already accomplished more than her pupil twice her age. So she already got recognition more than most of the people who are twice her age. She has brought percussion to the front of the orchestra and demonstrated that it can be very moving. She has given inspiration to those who are handicapped people who looked and say, if she can do it, I can. And not the least, she has given enormous pleasure to many millions. So now the people started to think that Evelyn Glennie has gifted the world so many music when people twice her age could not give up. So she has brought the percussion in the front of the orchestra. Percussion was at the back of the orchestra. She brought it to the front, and this is what this image shows us. Okay, she's at the center at this moment. She brought the percussion at the first. Percussion is an important tool of the music. She made them realize, and that is something very different. And being a solo percussionist, she demonstrated that it can be very moving. You can listen to percussion through many times, okay, through ages. It is very moving for you. She has given inspiration to those who are handicapped. To those who are handicapped, she has the inspiration to one. People who look up to her and say, if she can do it, I can. So people now say, if she can perform it, why can't I? And this is what the true inspiration should be. This is what you should learn from the great people. What is to be learned from the great people? We learn from the great people that whatever they do, we should not imitate them, but how they are doing, we should imitate it. We should take their inspiration, we should take their method of work, and we should learn the method of work from Evelyn Glennie. This is what we must do. Only then we can also be famous. Each and everyone has the capability to do something. Evelyn Glennie also has it, but she doesn't know that previously, and she realized it later on. And when she realized it, she worked hard for it. So each and everyone is actually handicapped in some other way, despite having all the body parts. But we should realize what we are weaker at, and we should make it better. We should take it as a challenge. This is what she taught the whole world. If she can do it, I can. She can make the world move with her music despite being deaf, so others can do many other difficult tasks. And not the least, she has given enormous pleasure to millions. Of course she did. What she did, she made music, and this music has given pleasure to a lot of people. People loved music. People loved her music, being a solo performist. So this is what she gave. This is what she can do. So this is what Deborah Coleman writes about Evelyn Glennie from one of the interviews that she took for 2 hours. Okay, so this was a very inspiring story. This was actually a very inspiring story by Evelyn Glennie. Okay, about Evelyn Glennie, written by Deborah Coleman. A lot of question answers are there, which are definitely will come up in the Google Classroom. So have a look at the Google Classroom for the question and answers. Okay. So read the text very well. Thank you. The class is over by now.